The village of Willow Creek nestled in a valley where mist clung to the hills like cobwebs. Each dawn its cobbled streets knew the tread of Elias Thornwood. The locksmith, his shop, smelling perpetually of oil and metal filings, was a place of quiet magic. Elias didn't just mend locks. He seemed to understand them, whispering to stubborn mechanisms until they yielded. But his true gift, whispered among the villagers, was an uncanny ability to unlock hearts burdened by secrets and sorrows. He possessed an old, unassuming brass key, worn smooth by generations, that legend claimed could open any physical lock. Yet Elias used a different kind of key entirely. The key of patient listening and profound empathy. His eyes, the color of storm clouds, held a depth that invited confession, a silent promise of understanding without judgment. One blustery autumn evening, Mistress Agatha, the stern widow who ran the apothecary, stood trembling on his threshold. Her usual rigid posture was broken, replaced by a fragility Elias had never seen. Her voice, usually sharp as she scolded children for tracking mud, cracked as she spoke of her late husband's journal, discovered hidden behind a loose stone in her cellar hearth. It was sealed with a complex lock he'd crafted before his sudden passing years ago. A lock guarding words she both longed and feared to read. She clutched a small, ornate iron box, its surface cold and unyielding. Elias didn't reach for his tools immediately. He brewed strong tea, stoked the fire, and simply sat, the silence stretching comfortably until Agatha, tears finally spilling, whispered her decades of loneliness and the terrifying hope the journal contained. Her heart, long padlocked shut, began to creak open. Another time, young Finn, perpetually scuffed and scraped from avoiding the village bullies, slunk into the shop. He avoided Elias's gaze, kicking at the worn rug, his prized possession. A small brass compass gifted by his seafaring grandfather was trapped inside a discarded, rusted strongbox he'd found near the river. The lock was corroded. Seemingly hopeless, Finn mumbled about the compass, but his hunched shoulders spoke louder of the heavy locks of fear and isolation bolting him tight. Elias worked slowly on the strongbox, sharing tales of his own awkward childhood, of feeling like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. He spoke not of defeating bullies, but of finding inner bearings, of being one's own true north. As the stubborn lock finally surrendered with a satisfying clunk, a different kind of lock clicked open within Finn. A tentative, hopeful smile replaced his downcast expression as he clutched the recovered compass, its needle pointing steadily home. Then came the bitter winter when hardship gripped Willow Creek. Master Dorian, the baker, whose warm loaves were the village's morning heartbeat, faced ruin. His ovens, ancient and temperamental, had finally failed, their complex firing mechanisms jammed beyond his skill. More than the fear of losing his livelihood, Dorian was crushed by the lock of perceived failure, the dread of letting down generations of bakers before him. He stood in Elias's shop, flour dusting his shoulders like snow, his large frame diminished by despair. Elias listened to the frantic worry about cold hearths and hungry villagers. He spent days not just meticulously cleaning and repairing the intricate clockwork of the oven mechanisms, but reminding Dorian of the countless mornings his bread had brought comfort, of the resilience baked into his very being when the ovens roared back to life, filling the pre-dawn air with the scent of hope and yeast. It was the unlocking of Dorian's spirit, the release from the prison of his own doubt, that filled the workshop with the most profound warmth. Years flowed like the creek beside the village. Elias, his hair now silver as moonlight on frost, found his own hands trembling slightly. A subtle melancholy settled upon him, a quiet sense that while he could mend others' hidden hurts, his own life felt strangely contained. He'd poured so much into unlocking others that he wondered if he'd neglected his own doors, leaving them quietly rusted shut. The legendary brass key felt heavy in his pocket, a symbol of solutions that couldn't mend the quiet ache of solitude that sometimes visited him by the fading firelight. Had his gift, beautiful as it was, become its own kind of isolating lock? This unspoken doubt was a new, unfamiliar weight in his chest. One bright spring morning, a commotion erupted outside his shop. Young Alara, Finn's daughter, with her father's determined eyes and wild curls, stood pointing urgently at a towering, ancient oak near the village green, high in its gnarled branches, precariously caught like a trapped bird, fluttered the vibrant silk scarf of old Maud. The village storyteller Maud, her eyesight failing, had accidentally let it slip to the wind. Retrieving it seemed impossible. The lower branches were long gone, the trunk too smooth to climb. Maud stood below, wringing her hands, the loss of the scarf, a gift from her own mother. A sharp grief etched on her face. Villagers gathered, shaking their heads at the impossibility. Elias looked up, feeling the stiffness in his own bones, the echo of his own recent doubts. The physical key in his pocket was useless here. The lock was distance and age. Alara, however, didn't see impossibility. She saw Finn's old compass, now hers, lying momentarily forgotten on Elias's workbench with sudden, startling clarity. She didn't ask for help. Instead, she turned to the gathered crowd, her voice clear and bright. "My papa's rope," she declared, "the long one from the barn. And Mr. Thornwood's pulley from fixing the well last summer. If we tie the rope here," she pointed to a sturdy lower limb, "and loop it there with the pulley, someone strong could pull it taut." Then she turned her bright gaze directly to Elias. "Then Mr. Thornwood could climb that. He knows knots. He can reach it." She wasn't unlocking the problem with force, but with connection, weaving together the resources and strengths of everyone present. Her idea was the perfect key, fashioned not from metal, but from community and trust. Elias felt a profound shift, a long still lock within him turning smoothly. His purpose wasn't diminished. It was being reflected back, multiplied following Alara's precise, excited instructions. The villagers worked together. Finn secured the rope, Dorian manned the pulley, others steadied the base. Elias, feeling a surge of energy that belied his years, climbed the created rope ladder with the agility born of decades of precise work. He reached the fluttering silk, its colors vibrant against the new green leaves as his fingers closed around the delicate fabric. A wave of warmth, deeper than any forge's heat, flooded through him. Looking down, he saw not just Maud's tearful gratitude, but the shining pride in Alara's eyes, the supportive smiles of Finn, Dorian, Agatha, and all the others whose hidden locks he'd gently turned over the years. He hadn't unlocked this alone, they had unlocked it together, using the key Alara had instinctively known, the key of shared strength and belief. Descending, he placed the scarf gently into Maud's waiting hands. That evening, the familiar glow from Elias's workshop window seemed warmer, brighter. The legendary brass key rested on his workbench, a curious artifact, the true key, he understood now with peaceful certainty, glowing softly within him and reflected in the eyes of his neighbors. Wasn't forged from brass, but from the countless moments of shared vulnerability, quiet understanding, and the simple, profound act of believing in each other. It was a key that fit every lock, because it was made of the one thing every heart, no matter how barricaded, yearned for: connection. And as the village quieted under a blanket of stars, that connection hummed softly, a lullaby of belonging that promised peaceful sleep.